I want you to think of the last beautiful meal you had at a restaurant, where the room was dimly lit, the air smells delicious, the table beautifully set. That moment, right before you're supposed to place your food order, is supposed to be the moment you arrive. And then the ritual of arrival starts. The ritual of breaking bread together starts with this. A QR code. Not a printed menu, not a welcome, but a simple prompt that says, scan me. So you reach for your phone, the same device that carries your email, messages, notifications, your entire other world, and you invite that device to the dinner table. And that's the moment I want to talk about today. Because with this simple prompt, we are not only digitizing menus, we're digitizing taste quietly. Just so I'm clear, this is not a technology is bad speech, and I promise you I'm not here to campaign for the endangered cocktail menus. It's about something more precise, something more human. It's about attention, trust, and decision-making. I'm a design practitioner and researcher who studies how our environments and day-to-day objects influence the way we think, the way we behave, especially in hospitality, when small little design moves influence the way we see, the way we choose, what we choose to value, and how we consume, and what we consume. So after the COVID-19 pandemic, when restaurants went rapidly digital, as a part of my dissertation research, I surveyed around 350 individuals across Texas and held one-on-one interviews with 30 patrons, and I kept hearing the same story over and over again. That in an upscale environment, a printed menu feels like it's a part of the whole experience. When that gets replaced by a QR code menu, patrons kept describing it as a letdown, like something premium had suddenly gone generic. So here's the key idea. A menu is not just a list of information. It's choice environment. It signals care. It orchestrates attention. It tells you the kind of room you have just walked into without uttering a single word. And when that menu disappears into our phones, we are not simply changing the format, we're changing the mind state. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. During the interviews, one of the diners shared that QR code menus breaks the intimacy when people are dining together because they are immediately drawn to their phones. Now, that's not a minor complaint. It's cognitive architecture. That's the mind state, the state of mind. Because remember, the room did not change. Your attention did. And when menus stop behaving like containers of ritual, they could become portals to your entire other world, right? And remember, our phones do not arrive empty. They arrive with all the missed calls, missed messages, missed notifications. Quite honestly, they arrive with everyone who you were avoiding responding to. Another diner bluntly put it as, people are so focused on their phones that it breaks the communal feel at the table. What those words specifically emphasize is the fact that it's not the table that misbehaved. The design of that experience makes it effortless for people to disappear behind their individual screens. And we know this from research and experimental work, that even when people are using their phones just at the start of the meal, it still reduces enjoyment. It reduces enjoyment by 0.5 point on a 7-point scale, according to research conducted by University of British Columbia. Now, here's the thing. Hardly did anyone say, I see a QR code menu, therefore I distrust the restaurant. Instead, what was shared was a lot more subtle. That QR code menus feel like a shortcut. Printed menus, especially in high-touch settings, are read as signals of care and effort. On the other hand, QR code menus are read as signals of cost-cutting, cost savings, not guest-focused. And that is a trust story. In hospitality, care is rarely announced loudly, right? It shows up in small little details like fabric, texture, color, paper stock, typography choices, the pacing of the information, even in the way a menu is handed over to you. And when we lose that, we are not simply losing paper and ink. We lose a language of care. Here's another line from the interviews that I still can't seem to shake. I'm basically being asked to print the menu onto my own device. And I can't seem to unhear this. Because what the guest is actually saying is that they're being asked to absorb labor. Not dramatic macro labor, but micro labor, such as scanning, navigating, dealing with wonky interface, glitchy Wi-Fi. And these micro frictions can have macro impacts. Like another diner who shared, clumsy QR systems frustrate me so much that I end up ordering less and leaving early. So in other words, a menu simply does not shape what we order. It shapes whether we linger, whether we ask questions, whether we choose to interact with each other, whether the evening feels like a special event or just another transaction. The philosophical point that I'm trying to make is that a shared meal is one of the last rituals we all still remember across class, across cultures, across languages, and even politics. And large-scale studies tell us that people and culture who dine together report higher life satisfaction and higher social support compared to people who choose to dine by themselves. So we may disagree about everything else, but deep down, we know what it means to break bread together. And rituals help. Rituals work because they protect attention. They draw a boundary around meaning. And when the first act of dining, when the first act of that ritual starts with a scan me, that boundary collapses. And the most unnerving part about most digital transactions, at least as of today, is that they're all designed to look and feel the same, right? They carry the same glows, they carry the same scrolls, they even carry the same frictions. So basically, you're in a different restaurant dancing to the same behavioral choreography. And that's what homogenization really is. So before we all storm out to reclaim the laminated wine menu, this is important. Not all people were uniformly anti-digital. Some guests appreciate the digital menu because it gives them the option to explore the menu, plan their meals beforehand, and avoid the social pressure of having to make the decisions on the spot. And some people don't mind having the phone at the table because they use them. They use it to pay the bills or split the bills. And quite honestly, in busy restaurants, especially in busy restaurants, such technological interventions frees up the staff to provide more honest and genuine hospitality instead of running card machines. So the point is not, let's ban QR code menus. The point is, stop treating the menu as a file transfer. Uploading a PDF is not a design strategy. And diners notice this, because when you have to deal with a tiny little screen and a tiny PDF where you have to pinch and zoom in a dimly lit room, that's not experiencing a menu. That's not any kind of experience. And quite honestly, that's a usability test. So here's the move. We've got to stop asking printed or digital. What we need to ask is, what is the menu supposed to do psychologically? If the role of the menu is to build anticipation, signal care, support connection, then no matter what interface we choose, paper or screen or both, it has to be designed for those outcomes. So what I want to leave with you today are 3 principles to better the future of taste. Whether you design restaurants, you write code, you're into behavioral psychology, or you simply enjoy dining out with your friends and family. 1, design for presence, not just access. If a menu has to live in a phone, it's got to be fast, glanceable, and calm. Not a scroll war, not a tiny PDF, not a battle between the screen brightness over candlelight. We've got to give people what they need to make their choices and let them come back to each other. 2, make it hybrid when the moment is sacred. In upscale settings or in elevated settings such as upscale dining and fine dining, diners still read into printed menus as signals of luxury and premiumness and even appropriateness. And when that becomes, that's changed into an all QR code experience or an all digital experience, it breaks the mood. So in such environments, in such situations, going hybrid is not indecision. It's respect for context. And if you're thinking about sustainability right now, data tells us that people versus planet debate is a false binary because there are recycled and compostable paper as much as there are high energy hungry screens. 3, start treating menus as cultural artifacts. Elements such as typography, the tactility of the material that you hold in your hands, the language used to describe the ingredients that goes into your food, the layout design, the pacing of the information, these things are not decoration. It's how a restaurant writes culture into an evening. So in other words, a menu is also memory design. People don't just seem to remember what they ate. They remember how it was offered to them, where they were geographically when they were being asked to make those choices, and who they were with when they made those choices. So the next time somebody slides a QR code menu towards you, try this. Ask yourself before you scan, what kind of a night is this meant to be? What kind of a meal is this meant to be? What kind of a moment is this meant to be? A ritual or a transaction? Because if we minimize or if we reduce dining into a homogenized digital transaction, we lose one of the simplest ways we human beings know how to come together, of becoming us. And Jaden summarized this beautifully in one of the earlier talks, food. Food was never meant to be just fuel. It's memory, it's culture, it's community, written into every single menu, whether it's printed on a linen paper or it quietly glows on a screen in the dark. What we are replacing at the table is a shared artifact that's supposed to be passed around, pointed at, lingered over. And what we are replacing that with is a command, scan me. Neither is good or bad. However, each one of those things orchestrate very different human beings and very different human behaviors. So the real question on the table is not if menus are disappearing. It's whether we are also disappearing with them. Thank you.